clearly telling Canadians that their parliamentarians shouldn't be debating, discussing, representing them in deciding how to best address this? And what message does that send to the U.S.?
We got some breaking news here. Welcome back to Muslim Loose. My name's David. Today's top story here. So we've got Justin Trudeau had a call with Donald Trump this morning, and I don't think it went very well. They're going to have another call, which is actually happening right now as I'm filming this. What's interesting, though, is Mexico has made a secret deal with Donald Trump. They're postponing the tariffs for 30 days. They're working it out. Justin Trudeau now is pressed against the wall. He has to make a deal, or there's going to be a serious revolt here in Canada. I mean, we already don't like the guy, but it's going to get much worse. This whole Team Canada approach has been nothing but a load of crap. Let's call it what it is. A bunch of the premiers are going to further measures. This is escalating. Let's jump into this. So first off, let's start with this one. CEO of Canada's second biggest company defends Trump's tariff demands, slams Trudeau for not stopping the trade war. Talking about this guy here, Toby Lutka. This is the owner CEO of Shopify. He said Canada thrives when it works with America together, win by helping America win. Trump believes that Canada has not held its side of the bargain. These are things every Canadian wants its government to do. These are not crazy demands, even if they came from an unpopular source. These tariffs are going to be devastating to so many people's lives and small businesses. Exactly. Leadership is about what's doing right, not what is popular. That's the problem. We have Justin Trudeau. This narcissistic pig only cares about himself, and hitting back will not lead to anything good. America will shrug it off. Canada will decline.
On Canada, when you talk to Justin Trudeau again, is there anything he can give you at 3 p.m. when you talk again to also
I don't know.
Pause,
I don't know.
like you said with Mexico?
I don't know. We have big deficits with Canada, like we do with all countries. I mean, I look at some of the deals made, I say, who the hell made these deals are so bad? But with Canada, I have a talk with him, and you maybe know or maybe not. We're going to meet again or talk again at 3 o'clock, right after my next meeting, and we'll see what happens. I can't tell you what's going to happen.
Mentioned that he could agree to change your mind on the tariff?
Well, we can always, but look, what I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection, military protection. We don't need them to build our cars. I'd rather see Detroit or South Carolina or any one of our Tennessee, any one of our states build the cars. They could do it very easily. We don't need them for the cars. We don't need them for lumber. We don't need them for anything. We don't need them for energy. We have more energy than they do. We don't need them for energy. So I say, why are we doing this? Why are we willing to lose between $100 billion and $200 billion a year? We don't need them. As a state, it's different. As a state, it's much different. And there are no tariffs. So I'd love to see that, but some people say that would be a long shot. If people wanted to play the game right, it would be 100% certain that they'd become a state. But a lot of people don't like to play the game because they don't have a threshold of pain. And there would be some pain, but not a lot. The pain would be really there. So we're going to meet.
So yeah, he's right about that. The pain would be ours. They would feel some, and people would start to kind of revolt back against him, but not to the same level of detriment it will be to our country. Now, they sell their oil overseas at market price, making top dollar, and then they bring in our oil at a major discount. So they are making a lot of money off us. But the point being, clearly, if Mexico, as you're going to hear coming up here, made a deal with Trump, Canada can too. It's just Justin Trudeau is screwing us over so badly. He's probably saying everything possible to botch this and doing this whole Team Canada thing and bringing up all these tariffs when clearly there was a position to make a deal. Colombia made one. Mexico has now made one. What will Justin Trudeau do? Trump has played this well. It doesn't matter if you like him. He clearly agreed with something with Mexico on the weekend, and to keep it quiet, he met with Trudeau, didn't tell him, and then announced the Mexico deal straight afterwards with pre-agreed comms. Nope, they need our oil unless they turn to Venezuela, and we sell them our oil at a huge discount. Yeah, they make a lot of money off us. And no matter what he wants to say, the math is the math. The reason why there's cheap gas in America and not in Canada is because we sell our oil dirt cheap to them. Regardless, we need to get our border cleaned up. We need to get rid of all these woke, stupid policies, unimaginable amount of money laundering and labs and all this bad stuff that needs to be cleaned up. getting into this trade tariff war is not what we need. This whole dollar for dollar thing is stupid and it's not going to work. Why doesn't he want Mexico to become the 51st state? Because Canadians and Americans are very similar, but it's not so much the same with Mexicans and Americans. Also, Mexico has tons of cartels and just there's a level of crime down there that's much worse than what's in Canada. At least that's what I would suspect. Trump is treating Trudeau like a baby reindeer. So next up, they're talking about the deal they did with Mexico here.
The big picture here, Sandra, is that we're in a drug war, and Mexico understands that. They've been very cooperative. President Trump has been fully engaged with the Mexican president. Also, pat on the back to Secretary of State Rubio, the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, right here in the White House, Stephen Miller, Tom Homan. We're trying to stop the death of Americans from fentanyl and other drugs and other problems from the border invasion. Mexico seems to understand that. They promised to send more troops. Negotiation will continue. We're on a 30-day pause with the tariffs. Canada seems to think we're in a trade war, and not only seems to think we're in a trade war, they're dramatically provoking the trade war with threats of retaliation. The president will be speaking with Prime Minister Trudeau shortly. And look, what Canada needs to understand is that it plays a major role in the fentanyl traffic to the United States that's killing over 75,000 Americans a year. That's roughly the number that's going to be in the Super Bowl next Sunday. And it's more than the people who died in the Vietnam War as soldiers. So
I don't like that they keep referring to as Canada because it's not us, it's the Liberals. I wish they would just refer to it as Trudeau and the Liberals. As you saw here, Mexico made some sort of deal. They're bringing in more troops. Justin Trudeau can't negotiate because Parliament is not functioning. They can't actually do anything. They say, oh yeah, we have this plan, $1.3 billion over 6 years to strengthen the border. Meanwhile, they send so much of our money to Africa and other places I've shown on my far off ripoff segment, which I'll be bringing back here. Trudeau can't negotiate from a place of power. He has zero power. It's all a big farce. Trudeau do whatever damages working Canadians the most because that's what he always does. That's it right there. Another person doing that is Doug Ford. This is ridiculous, Doug. What is this? Ontario cancels $100 million Starlink deal. How does that help Canadians? Canadians who are rural, who need those connections to the internet, how does that help them?
Well, is this really about poking Elon Musk in the eye and making President Trump's friends feel pain during this process?
Well, President Trump is the only person to be blamed. Maybe Elon Musk can call his buddy. And this is one of the ramifications. This is the ramifications when we stop selling $1 billion worth of liquor. And that goes across the country. A lot of premiers have called me up and said they're doing exactly the same. Tim Houston is doing it, and other provinces are doing it, and I encourage them to do it. I think this is a Team Canada approach. We have to stay united, and we have to...
Yes, enough of this. And why is he wearing a shirt that says professional firefighters? It's like the equivalent of Mary Simon putting on a uniform that has all those medals as if she's achieved something that would deem getting medals. It's just ridiculous.
Are there going to be any penalties to breaking this Starlink contract?
I think we have a great case. He broke a deal. He broke a trade deal. And I think we have a very, very good case if it goes to court. So even in that case, you know, I don't care if there's a fine or whatever, but I think we're going to win it. This is principle.
So he doesn't care about wasting Canadians' dollars and not serving the community. Like, come on. This is not helping Canada. That just hurts Canada more. You have to serve the people. It's always about serving the people. I'm seeing a lot of these comments here. Ford is pathetic. He's lost my vote. New blue. I'm not involved in the Ontario politics for the election or whatever, but if I were out there, I would be probably voting for the New Blue Party. That's the actual Conservative Party of Ontario. Has nothing to do with the people of Ontario, does it? It's all about me. We're seeing this in British Columbia as well. They're taking all the stumbling juice off the shelves here. All the ones that are from America, from red states. Only red states. And here's this bumbling buffoon, David Eby, the Premier of British Columbia, doing the same thing, announcing stupid measures and also removing Starlink.
We've already issued letters of direction to Crown corporations and across government that for procurement of major projects, and this is literally billions of dollars in spending, that will be focused, that we are prohibiting those contracts going to American firms. We have a trade agreement with the United States that prevented us from putting a rule like that in place. But when the president rips up that trade agreement, says it doesn't apply and puts on 25% tariffs, then the only response for British Columbians can be, for our public money, just like for our money at the grocery store, it's going to go to countries that support and recognize our sovereignty. It's going to go to Canada first, wherever we can, and we're going to ensure that we're doing those things. And so that's already happened. We were actually looking at Starlink for our last mile completions of connection to high-speed internet for rural communities in the province, especially particularly remote and rural communities. We're no longer looking at Starlink.
Yeah, what other options do you have? This guy's such a buffoon. Once again, denying people access to the internet, which is vital in today's world.
That makes everybody worse off.
This guy's literally never stood up for BC. It's all about himself, and he just runs such a huge deficit. Just an absolute loser. Secure the border, time to stop street candy production, gangs, money laundering. Yeah, I mean, you saw the previous video. The money laundering in this province is off the charts, and it's all directed to the street candy. BC should have 100% tariffs imposed until they criminalize street candy again. Meanwhile, Vancouver is a walking street fennel crisis. And for anyone new who wonders why I keep referring to these words as like street fennel or terror lord or whatever, it's because my channel gets dinged hard for this. And I get it. Some other channels don't get dinged. They're not on the radar. They're not getting targeted by the institutions, etc. But my channel is. It was nearly taken down about 6 months ago because I was saying stuff people didn't like. That is why I have to use these words for the sake of the channel. And I am allowed to say this word on here. I'm allowed to say a lot of these words. That's why other channels are able to do it. But my channel specifically cannot get away with saying these words because I'm rocking the boat too much with the stuff I bring up here. We've got breaking news here. So while I was filming this here, Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau made a deal. It's same thing as Mexico, a 30-day basically delay to prove that they're going to do something about this situation. But Justin Trudeau is screwed. So first off, let's take a look at his tweet. So we've got it here. It says, I just had a good call with President Trump. Canada's implementing our $1.3 billion plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, personnel, enhanced coordination with their American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of street fennel. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new appointments to appoint a street fennel czar. This came directly from Danielle Smith. That's what she's been calling for the past week. We will list cartels as terror lords, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-US joint strike force to combat organized crime, street fennel, and money laundering. I've also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and street fennel, and we'll be backing it with $200 million. Proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days while we work together. So finally, we have someone acting in our best interest here in Canada, and it's Donald Trump. It's not Justin Trudeau. Trudeau was forced to do this. He should have done this from the start, and it's just out of control, all this stuff. This literally dropped like 5 minutes ago, so the aftermath of this, we'll see what happens here. But Justin Trudeau is screwed. Like, how is he going to fund all this stuff? Is he going to rob from different piggy banks to pay for this kind of stuff? The $1.3 billion, the $200 million? He's going to have to call back Parliament and get a money bill, but then he's going to be voted out. So 30-day window, this leads us to basically when Carney takes over? Not quite. A week out from that? This is going to get messy because he's probably going to try to do some things with what little resources they have right now. But the government's getting close to the end of their fiscal budget for their year end. But for now, we at least have this win. It looks like Justin handed in his homework on time. So Trump got everything he wanted, then some. Pre-agreed comms as well. Now call an election so we can finally get rid of you. Does all the weak Canadian moralizing stop now as well? Trump used a tariff as expected to get Canada to do something the US needed. Canadians need this. This is a bigger win for Canada than it is for America. I know Americans are cheering right now, but like this is what we really needed. Open up, here comes the airplane. So there's a whole bunch of memes now. People, you know, this is what Trump wanted. He's humiliated Justin Trudeau again. And more importantly for us, we're getting our border going to be cleaned up here because he's going to have to prove he's done something or this is just going to go back to tariffs. New executive order, Justin Trudeau is a total loser. Oh, now you're actually going to do something about money laundering and the flow of street fennel? Will Eby comply? This is a good question because David Eby, he has zero interest of touching this problem. He's created the problem. He quite literally has the factories here in British Columbia creating this stuff. The street candy is given out for free to people. Doug Ford is busy taping together Starlink agreement. Yeah, as you saw earlier, somebody must have hacked his account. That's hilarious. Next up, check out this interview with Vassie Kapelos and Dominic LeBlanc. So Justin Trudeau's new finance minister and border, whatever his titles are. Vassie straight out calls him, fact checks him on providing support for Canadians, requiring them going back to Parliament. And he keeps trying to deflect, and she just calls him on it.
We spoke to Lana Payne last night, who heads up Uniform, obviously represents a number of tens of thousands of auto workers across the country. We spoke to a number of different auto industry representatives who all said that the auto industry literally will shut down in the next week following the imposition of these tariffs. How far are you prepared to go to support those workers? And doesn't Parliament need to be in session to make that happen?
So again, the two questions. The last question, no, we believe that the government has the instruments necessary to support workers and Canadian businesses in the current context. What we did last night, what we can do with programs like employment insurance, what we can do with what I can do in terms of providing liquidity, financial assistance to businesses through the Crown Corporations, Export Development Canada, Business Development Canada. There's a lot of instruments. I know that...
This is a load of crap, and he knows it. There's a minimum amount of money they can spend. I believe it was $83 million is total they had for all border spending up until actually passing another budget. So they're screwed, and they know it. He's just going to try to deflect this, push this down, kick this can down the road another month or so to get their next loser leader, most likely Mark Carney, to take over. Once again, not serving in Canadians' best interest.
Know that the Deputy Minister of Finance, the Governor of the Bank of Canada are meeting the leaders of Canada's 6 biggest banks today to decide and to discuss with them what instruments are necessary to support sectors of the economy, to the example of the auto sector that will be hard hit. So we'll be there to support these businesses. We think we have all the instruments and the programs available to do so.
What if, though, Minister, with all respect, you do need to come to Parliament to have, extraordinary measures like during the pandemic, like CERB, like whatever it happens to be? I mean, we're talking about an entire industry, the backbone of the most populous province in this country, which could collapse in a week. And are you really telling Canadians that their parliamentarians shouldn't be debating, discussing, representing them in deciding how to best address this? And what message does that send to the U.S.?
We'll make all the decisions necessary to support workers and businesses. So if that circumstance that you described turns out to be the case, obviously we would do what is necessary. So
you're not going to avoid it just to stave off an election, to be clear?
Well, but again, therein lies the contradiction. The opposition parties have vowed at the first opportunity to cause an election. That's a guaranteed way to make sure that Parliament doesn't meet for 2 or 3 more months.
This is absolutely insane. You're going to blame the opposition parties for wanting to take you down because that's what Canadians want? It's our choice. If you guys are so confident, call an election. If you're so confident, then bring back Parliament. They know they're going to be crushed, and they're keeping this going. This should be against the law, what they're doing here. And he's full out admitting it now, and they're trying to blame the Conservatives, the Bloc, even the NDP, saying, well, now if they do it, we'll go to election, and then that's not good for Canadians.
So they can't have it both ways. You can't say, hurry up, bring Parliament back because we want to have an election, which would mean that Parliament would not be...
the timing is essentially set off by the Prime Minister deciding at the point he did to vacate his position. I mean, it's not the opposition's fault that he waited until he did.
I don't think the issue is, does the government have the necessary instruments and programs to support sectors of the economy and workers? The answer is yes. The politics of people parading around the foyer of the House of Commons with manufactured outrage, you've been around long enough, Vashti, that's a whole separate conversation.
Manufactured outrage? Did this loser just say that? There's real outrage in this country. Our country is completely screwed right now. There's no low this den of thieves will not stoop to.
Conversation. The focus that we think Parliament and parliamentarians should have is what they can do in their communities to frankly give voice to the business leaders and to the workers that are concerned about this. And you have 13 premiers and a federal government that have said they'll work together to do what's necessary. I think we should be careful not to talk about a COVID-like circumstance. Some people have done that. I haven't done that. COVID is where the government of Canada shut down entire sectors of the economy for a public health emergency.
But I mean, entire sectors of the economy could be shut down because of this.
Absolutely, and the government will be there to support them.
No, they won't. How? How will they be there? Fassi doing a good job here grilling him. Dominic LeBlanc has a position of finance minister because he was Trudeau's babysitter. This is actually true. He was his babysitter. Knowing that puts this ridiculous response into perspective. Quite the whirlwind of events here today with 2 phone calls back and forth. There's actually more media and stuff, but we've got the right solution here. It's good we're not going into this trade war. Donald Trump just twisting Trudeau's arm, just making him submit. There was other clips too. One of them at Doug Ford I didn't even show, where one of the reporters asked him if he would use cutting off off the electricity as a way to bargain. He said all options are on the table. He didn't say no to that, like actually cutting off electricity to millions of Americans in winter. Like, it's just disgraceful, getting out of hand. Going forward with this situation, I'm sure we can expect to hear Trump talking tariffs, negotiating with the EU, and then also Panama. And in Canada, we're going to see what happens with the loser Liberal leadership race. Or better yet, Justin, call an election.